right, so we're back. And tonight we're diving into a game that was way more than just a conference title.
Yeah.
The Big Ten Championship.
Really?
Oregon versus Penn State.
Yeah, big one.
You've got two absolute powerhouse programs, both with their eyes on that potential #1 seed in the college football playoffs.
Absolutely.
It's a high-stakes matchup with a ton of storylines.
So many storylines in this one.
I mean,
it's going to be fun.
where do we even begin, I guess, with the fact that you have Oregon in their very first season in the Big Ten, after spending decades out on the West Coast, going undefeated?
It's impressive. It's really impressive. I mean, new conference, you're coming in, you don't know what to expect, and to go undefeated first season, that's a statement.
Huge statement. And then you've got Penn State back in the championship game for the first time since 2016.
Yep.
Eager to prove they belong.
Absolutely. After a little bit of a drought, they want to show that they're back and they're here to stay.
It's like two heavyweight boxers finally meeting in the ring.
I like that analogy. I like that a lot.
So where do we even begin, I guess, with the roster?
Let's start there.
I mean, this game was stacked with talent.
Oh, yeah. Stacked top to bottom, both sides of the ball, stars everywhere.
So for Oregon, you've got Dylan Gabriel.
The Heisman hopeful.
The Heisman hopeful.
Yep.
And Jordan James, who already rushed for over 1,000 yards this season.
Workhorse, that guy, he's a beast.
They were a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Two-headed monster on offense, you got to pick your poison.
And for Penn State, I mean, Drew L.R., their quarterback, was no slouch.
Oh, absolutely not. He's a dual-threat quarterback, can make plays with his arm and his legs. Keeps you guessing the whole game.
Keeps the defense honest, for sure.
For sure. And they had Tyler Warren at tight end.
Oh, man. That guy was seemingly open on every play.
Seemed like it.
Oregon's defense had their hands full with him.
They did, and that became pretty clear right away.
Right out of the gate.
Oregon came out firing on all cylinders.
First 2 touchdown drives were like a clinic.
Like a masterclass in offensive execution. Exactly. You could tell they had a game plan and they were sticking to it.
And it was working.
It was working.
Beautifully.
I mean, just the tempo and misdirection that Oregon utilized to keep Penn State's defense off balance.
Yeah, they were confused. They didn't know what hit them.
I mean, they really exploited those linebackers in pass coverage over the middle.
Over and over again. That was their weak spot, and Oregon found it.
And that set the tone for the whole game.
I think so. I think so.
It wasn't just that they scored, it was how they scored.
The way they did it, it was demoralizing for Penn State. They couldn't keep up.
And then you had Kenyon Sadiq hurdling a defender on that 28-yard touchdown catch.
Did you see that?
I mean, was that even legal?
I had to rewind it a few times myself just to make sure I saw it right. Unbelievable athleticism.
I mean, what a play.
You could feel the energy shift in the stadium after that.
Oh, yeah. The momentum swung hard in Oregon's favor right there.
Oregon was making a statement, and they were doing it with style.
Style points, for sure.
But to Penn State's credit, they didn't just roll over.
No, they didn't. They fought back. They showed some heart.
The first half was a back-and-forth battle with both teams trading blows.
You know, some people might have expected Penn State to fold after that hot start from Oregon.
Right.
But they punched right back. They showed they weren't going away that easily.
5 consecutive scoring drives. That's some serious offensive firepower.
Oh, yeah. This game was a shootout in the first half.
Yeah.
Fans got their money's worth.
So you had Drew Aller bouncing back from an early interception.
Which was a tough one.
Yeah, a little bit of a pick-6 situation.
Yeah, it happens, though. Gotta shake it off.
But he bounced back to lead a touchdown drive of his own.
Showed a lot of poise.
He did. I mean, you could see the leadership qualities in him.
Oh, yeah. He didn't let that mistake get to him. He came right back and made a play.
So we go into halftime, Oregon, up 31-24.
A close one.
The game is far from over.
Anything could happen at this point.
What were some of the key turning points in the second half that you noticed?
Well, I think that missed field goal by Penn State at the beginning of the third quarter was huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who knows what happens if they get those 3 points?
Right. It could have shifted the momentum entirely.
Could have been a different ballgame.
A whole different game. We might be talking about a Penn State victory right now if they'd made that kick.
It's crazy how those small moments can have such a big impact on the game.
That's football for you. One play can change everything.
And Oregon capitalized right away on that missed field goal, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. They smelled blood in the water. They marched right down the field and scored another touchdown, extending their lead to 38-24.
Wow.
You could feel the air go out of the stadium for Penn State fans.
Yeah, it felt like a real turning point, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Like Penn State was on their heels from that moment on.
Yeah, they were reeling. They never really recovered.
So even though Penn State scored another touchdown in the fourth quarter,
right,
it was too little too late.
Yeah, they made it interesting, but They just ran out of time.
Their failed two-point conversion attempt after that touchdown really hurt their chances of making a comeback.
Yeah, that was a tough one. If they'd gotten that, it would have been a one-score game with a few minutes left.
Right.
Who knows what could have happened.
It just felt like Oregon had all the answers in the second half.
They did. They made the adjustments they needed to make, and they shut down Penn State's offense.
Final score, Oregon 38, Penn State 30.
A hard-fought battle, for sure, but Oregon came out on top.
You mentioned Dillon Gabriel's performance earlier, and he was incredible. But what else stood out to you about Oregon's offense?
I think their offensive line deserves a lot of credit. I mean, they were dominant up front, giving Gabriel plenty of time to throw and opening up huge holes for Jordan James.
And it felt like they wore down Penn State's defense as the game went on.
Oh, yeah. They were gassed by the fourth quarter.
Oregon's offensive line just imposed their will.
They were just physically outmatched.
I think so. Oregon was bigger, stronger, and faster up front.
And how about Penn State? Any bright spots for the Nittany Lions, even in defeat?
I think so. Drew Aller showed flashes of brilliance, especially when he was able to extend plays with his legs.
Yeah. He's a tough player to bring down, and I think he has a very bright future.
He made some highlight reel plays, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. He's got that wow factor, that ability to make something out of nothing.
So bigger picture now, this win basically guarantees Oregon the #1 seed in the playoffs, right?
I think so, barring some crazy upset somewhere else.
First round bye, home field advantage. It's a huge advantage.
It's massive. It gives them a chance to rest up and heal up while everyone else is battling it out in the first round.
Right. And their performance in this game sent a message to the rest of the country.
Oh, yeah.
They're a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. They're the team to beat right now.
It's an incredible accomplishment, especially considering they're new to the Big Ten.
It really is. They exceeded all expectations. I don't think anyone saw this coming.
Do you think anyone expected them to have this kind of success in their first year?
Honestly, I don't think so. Most people thought it would take them a few years to adjust to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But they came in and made a statement right away.
It speaks to the quality of their coaching staff, the talent on their roster, and their ability to adapt to a new environment.
They didn't miss a beat. It's remarkable.
It's a remarkable story.
One for the ages.
And speaking of stories, what do you think was the biggest factor in Oregon's success this season?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's easy to say, well, they have Dillon Gabriel.
Right.
But I think it's more than that. I think it's their resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah, they faced some tough opponents this season, some close games.
Yeah.
But they always found a way to win. They never panicked. They never lost their composure. They had that next play mentality that all great teams have.
That's play mentality?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what happened on the last play, good or bad. You just got to move on to the next one. And I think Oregon embodies that.
I remember watching their game against Ohio State earlier this year. They were down by 14 points going into the fourth quarter.
I remember that game.
And everyone thought they were done.
I thought they were done.
But they just kept fighting, kept making plays, and ended up winning in overtime.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. That was the game that made me a believer in Oregon.
That game was a perfect example of their mental toughness.
For sure. They could have easily folded in that situation, but they didn't.
They didn't.
They believed in themselves, they believed in their system, and they found a way to pull it off.
It's incredible.
It really is. It shows you what's possible when you have that kind of belief and determination.
That's what separates champions from contenders.
I think so. It's not just about talent. It's about heart determination and the ability to overcome adversity.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I try.
All right, so we know Oregon is likely locked into that #1 seed.
Right.
But what about the rest of the playoff picture? It's getting crowded at the top.
Oh, it's a mess. It's a beautiful mess, though. So many great teams, so many storylines.
You've got Georgia, Clemson, SMU, Ohio State, Tennessee, Indiana.
Don't forget about.
All with strong arguments for a playoff spot.
Yeah, you could make a case for any of those teams.
It's going to be a tough decision for the selection committee.
Oh, yeah, they've got their work cut out for them.
What factors do you think they'll be weighing the most heavily?
Well, obviously, overall record and strength of schedule are important.
All right.
But they'll also be looking at head-to-head results, conference championships, and, of course, that infamous eye test.
The eye test? You mean like how good a team looks on the field, even if their stats aren't amazing?
Exactly. It's a bit subjective, I know.
Yeah.
But it's about more than just numbers. The committee wants to see teams that dominate, that look like they belong among the best.
So if a team wins a game but looks shaky doing it,
right,
the committee might hold that against them.
It's definitely a possibility. They want to put the best, most deserving teams in the playoffs, and sometimes that means going beyond just the raw data.
Interesting. So given all of that, what are your predictions for the final playoff rankings?
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot here.
I am.
Right, if I had to put my money on it, I'd say Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State round out the top 4.
Those are some interesting choices. Let's break them down one by one. First up, Georgia. They lost to Alabama earlier this season.
Yep.
But they've been on a roll lately, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. They've won their last 7 games, including a convincing victory over Texas in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
They've got a stifling defense, a balanced offense, and a championship pedigree. It's hard to imagine the committee leaving them out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh?
What about Clemson? They've been a bit of an enigma this year with some impressive wins, but also some head-scratching losses.
That's true, but they've won their last 4 games, including a rematch victory against SMU in the ACC championship.
Okay.
Plus, let's be honest, they have that brand recognition, that history of success that the committee tends to value.
So you think their recent run of form and their overall reputation will be enough to secure them a spot?
I think so, but it'll be a close call. Now, Ohio State is a bit of a wild card. They've had a roller coaster season, to say the least.
Some big wins, some surprising losses, a lot of inconsistency.
Yeah, they've been all over the place.
But they finished strong, didn't they?
They did. They won their last 3 games, including a dominant performance against Michigan in their rivalry game.
That win over Michigan definitely boosted their resume.
Oh, yeah. That was a statement win. They needed that one.
They have a ton of talent, that's for sure.
One of the most talented rosters in the country.
And if they can play to their potential, they're as dangerous as any team in the country.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
All right, so you've got Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State as your picks.
Those are my picks.
Which teams do you think have the biggest reason to feel snubbed if they don't make it in?
Well, SMU definitely has a legitimate gripe. They beat Clemson earlier in the season, they won the AAC championship, and they have one of the most explosive offenses in the country.
It would be a tough pill to swallow for them if they get left out.
Yeah, I think they have a strong case, but the committee might hold that early loss to Clemson against them.
Tennessee and Indiana are also in the mix, but their losses to Georgia and Ohio State, respectively, might hurt their chances.
Yeah, those are tough losses, and they were both pretty decisive.
It's going to be a long and agonizing wait for all of these teams on Selection Sunday.
Oh, yeah. The tension is going to be thick. You can cut it with a knife.
But hey, that's what makes college football so captivating, right?
That's why I love it.
The drama, the unpredictability, the passion.
It's the best.
Couldn't agree more. And as we head into the playoffs, one thing is certain.
What's that?
We're in for some incredible matchups and unforgettable moments.
Oh, yeah. We're going to see some fireworks for sure.
Now, you mentioned that Oregon sent a message with their win over Penn State.
I did.
Do you think any of these other playoff contenders should be worried? What should we be watching for as the playoffs unfold?
I think what's most impressive about Oregon is their balance.
Balance.
Yeah, they can beat you with their offense. They can beat you with their defense.
Right.
And they have a quarterback in Dillon Gabriel who can take over a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dangerous combination.
Yeah.
It's hard to game plan against a team like that because they can hurt you in so many ways.
So you're saying they're not just a one-dimensional team?
Exactly. They're a complete team.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them so scary. They can adapt to different styles of play. They can win in different ways.
So for the other playoff contenders, the key is going to be figuring out how to slow down that Oregon offense.
Without a doubt. If you can't contain Dillon Gabriel and that high-powered attack, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to disrupt their rhythm to get them off schedule. Because if you let them get into a groove, they can score on anyone.
That's scary.
It is. It's very scary.
Well, folks, it sounds like we've got a thrilling playoff race on our hands.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Me neither. It's going to be a wild ride.
Now, before we move on, I want to take a closer look at some of the individual performances that shaped the Big Ten championship game. We've talked a lot about Dillon Gabriel and Drew Allar, but what about some of the other players who made a difference?
Sure. Yeah, there were a lot of great performances in that game. On the Oregon side, I thought Jordan James was his usual reliable self.
He always is.
Yeah, he might not have had a flashy breakout performance in this game, but his consistent, hard-nosed running was a key factor in their victory.
He's the workhorse, the engine that keeps that offense running.
Exactly. He's the guy who sets the tone for them. He's not always going to get the headlines, but he's always going to get the job done.
And for Penn State, Tyler Warren was a beast.
Oh, man, that guy was unstoppable.
He was constantly open, making clutch catches and keeping those chains moving.
He was a matchup nightmare for Oregon's defense. They couldn't cover him.
It's tough when you've got a tight end who can move like that.
It is. It's almost unfair.
But even beyond those star players, there were some other key contributors who deserve recognition.
Huh.
For Oregon, Dante Manning's interception in the second quarter was huge.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one?
That takeaway led directly to a touchdown and really swung the momentum in their favor.
It was a momentum shifter for sure. It gave Oregon a much-needed boost.
It's those kinds of game-changing plays that sometimes get overlooked but can be absolutely crucial.
I agree. Those are the plays that can make or break a game. And Dante Manning made a big one for Oregon.
And for Penn State, I thought Nick Singleton showed some real promise. His 22-yard touchdown reception in the first quarter was a highlight for the Nittany Lions.
He's a young guy with a lot of potential.
He's a player to watch for the future.
Absolutely. He's got all the tools to be a star.
It's clear that this game was won and lost through a combination of individual brilliance, key plays, and of course a bit of luck.
Yeah, that's football for you. It's a game of inches and a game of moments.
You never know what's going to happen on any given play.
That's the beauty of it. It keeps you on the edge of your seat.
You know, it's interesting to think about Oregon's journey this season. A new conference, new rivals, a whole new set of challenges. And they not only survived, they thrived.
It's incredible. They exceeded all expectations. They didn't just adapt, they dominated.
What impressed me most was their resilience. They faced adversity throughout the season, close games, tough opponents, but they always found a way to win.
That never-say-die attitude is what separates champions from contenders.
And now they're on the cusp of something truly special.
Yeah.
A shot at the national championship. Their story is far from over.
Can't wait to see how it ends.
And I can't wait to see what the next chapter holds.
Me neither. It's going to be exciting.
All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Big Ten Championship and the college football playoff race. You know, it's amazing to think how far Oregon has come this season.
It really is a remarkable turnaround. From being the new kids on the block in the Big Ten to being the top dog.
And they did it in style. I mean, I remember all the preseason predictions.
Oh, yeah, nobody gave them a chance.
Most analysts had them finishing somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Middle of the pack at best.
But they proved everyone wrong.
They sure did. They had that underdog mentality, that chip on their shoulder. And I think that fueled their success.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimated them because they were coming from the Pac-12.
Right. There was this perception that the Pac-12 wasn't as competitive as the Big Ten.
Exactly. Like it was a step down in competition.
But Oregon showed that they could play with anyone and beat anyone. They weren't intimidated by the competition.
In fact, it seemed like they thrived on it.
Oh, yeah. They embraced the challenge.
Think about the challenges they faced this season. A new conference, new opponents, a brutal schedule.
Week in and week out, they were facing top-tier competition.
And yet they went undefeated.
That's not a fluke. That's a sign of a truly great team.
That's a statement.
It is a statement.
Definitely not.
It's
a testament to their talent, their coaching, and their mental toughness. They faced adversity, they overcame obstacles, and they never lost sight of their goal.
I think that's the key right there, that mental toughness. They never gave up. They never doubted themselves. And that's what allowed them to achieve something special.
That game against Ohio State, where they came back from 14 points down in the fourth quarter, was a perfect example of their grit and determination.
Oh, man, that was a classic.
They could have easily given up.
At that point, most teams would have folded.
Right.
But not Oregon. They just kept fighting, kept making plays, and found a way to win.
That's the sign of a championship team.
I think so. The ability to win those close games, to come from behind when it matters most, that's what separates the good teams from the great teams.
And now they're heading into the playoffs as the #1 seed with a target on their back.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to be gunning for them. How do you think they'll handle that pressure?
I think they'll be fine. They've been playing with pressure all season. Every game has felt like a must-win for them, and they've responded every time. They don't shy away from the big moments.
Plus, they have Dillon Gabriel, who seems to thrive in those high-pressure situations.
Oh, yeah. He's a gamer. He loves the spotlight. He wants the ball in his hands when the game's on the line.
So what's the key for Oregon to maintain this momentum and make a run at the national championship?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think it comes down to staying true to themselves. They've had success all season by playing their game, by being aggressive on offense and opportunistic on defense. They can't let the pressure of the playoffs change who they are.
They can't overthink it.
Exactly. Just go out there and play their game. The game that got them to this point.
And they need to stay healthy.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial for any team, but especially for a team like Oregon that relies so heavily on its offensive firepower.
So you're saying they're not just a one-dimensional team. They're not just about Dylan Gabriel and the offense.
No way. They're a complete team. They have a strong defense, a solid running game, and special teams that can make a difference. It's not just about one player or one unit. It's about the collective effort.
It's interesting because a lot of people were skeptical about their defense earlier in the season. They thought it might be their Achilles heel.
Yeah, I remember hearing those concerns, but they've really come together as a unit.
They have.
They're playing with more confidence, more discipline, and they're making big plays when it matters most.
Like that interception by Dante Manning in the Big Ten championship game? That was a turning point.
Huge play, huge momentum shift.
It showed that their defense can step up in big moments.
And they're only going to get better. They're a young defense with a lot of potential.
So for the other playoff contenders, the key is going to be figuring out how to slow down that Oregon offense.
If you can't contain Dylan Gabriel and that high-powered attack, you're in trouble. You have to find a way to disrupt their rhythm to get them off schedule, because if you let them get into a groove, they can score on anyone.
Well, it sounds like we've got a thrilling playoff race ahead of us.
I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
All right, so before we wrap up, I want to ask you a big picture question. What is it about this Oregon team that has captured the imagination of so many fans?
That's a great question. I think it's their story.
Their story.
Yeah, it's the story of a team that defied expectations, that embraced a new challenge, and that achieved something truly special. They're a team that's easy to root for.
It's like a Hollywood movie script.
It really is.
The new kids in town come in and take over the conference. Now they're on a quest for a national championship.
It's a classic underdog story, and it's one that resonates with people. We love to see teams that overcome adversity, that prove the doubters wrong.
And they've done it with a style and swagger that's hard to ignore.
Oh, for sure. They're fun to watch. They have that it factor that makes them stand out.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how the final chapter of their story unfolds.
Yeah.
But regardless of what happens in the playoffs, they've already achieved something remarkable.
Absolutely. They've made history, they've inspired a generation of fans, and they've shown the college football world that anything is possible if you believe in yourself and your team.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to sign off. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Big Ten Championship and the college football playoff picture. We'll be back soon with more analysis insights and, of course, our signature deep dives.
Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep that passion for knowledge burning bright.
See you next time.